To the deep dive. Today, we're looking into something that sounds, well, incredibly compelling, maybe even a little bit unbelievable.
Oh,
We've got a source here talking about how people are supposedly making, significant passive income just selling low-content books on Amazon.
yeah, exactly. And these aren't like complicated novels or anything. We're talking notebooks, journals, planners,
Mm,
basically books with hardly any writing from the creator.
right, minimal stuff.
And the figures the source mentions are, well, they're pretty eye-popping. Royalties of like $4,333 a month.
Wow.
And some claims even hitting, get this, $78,000 a month.
78,000. Okay, yeah, those are wild numbers. And they definitely bring up the main question the source digs into. Is this actually, doable, a real path to passive income, or is it just hype?
Precisely.
Yeah.
So to figure it out, the people behind this source, they decided to run their own little experiment.
Yep.
They set out to actually create and try to sell one of these low-content books themselves on Amazon, but they put some pretty strict rules on themselves.
Strict rules? Like what?
Well, the challenge was specific. Create the book without writing a single sentence of content in it.
No writing.
Do the whole thing just from a laptop and finish everything from designing it to getting it ready to publish in less than an hour.
Under an hour. Okay, that's fast. So, yeah, this deep dive, we're going to unpack how they did it step by step based on the source and obviously reveal how their experiment turned out. Did they actually make any sales? Was there any problem? Okay, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So, first step for them, naturally, was figuring out how to make this thing, especially with, no design background and that crazy time limit.
Right.
The source says they picked some software called BookBolt.
Yeah, BookBolt. They chose it because it looked pretty user-friendly, and crucially, it had research tools built right in.
Ah, research tools. Smart.
Definitely. Instead of just, like, guessing what kind of journal might sell, they used the software's research tab to actually look at the market, see what low-content books were already selling well on Amazon.
That makes sense. Don't fly blind.
So what did the research show? What was selling?
Planners.
Yeah.
Simple as that. The data indicated that planners are a really strong category for this kind of book.
Planners. Yeah, I can see that. Lots of lines, boxes, calendars. You don't need to write paragraphs.
Exactly. And so they decided to make a daily planner, specifically going for what they called an evergreen product.
Evergreen, meaning...
Meaning it's not tied to a specific time, unlike, say, a 2025 planner, right? A daily planner can be bought and used any day of the year, so it has a much longer potential sales life.
Right, continuous appeal. Did the source mention any other evergreen examples they found?
Yeah, they did. They noted things like manifestation journals, prayer journals, dream journals. Those were other popular evergreen types they saw.
Okay.
The sort of general strategy they highlighted was look for stuff with high search volume. Ideally, lower competition, though that's tricky, and, proof of high monthly sales already happening.
Makes sense. Find the demand. Although they did add a point that even if competition is high, you're not necessarily shut out. If you can build some trust and get some sales history going, you can still potentially compete.
Okay, interesting. So find a need, check what's working, aim for something timeless. They had their niche daily planner and their tool, BookBolt. What came next? Actually making it, I guess. The cover and inside.
Yep, the creation part.
Yeah.
They started with the cover design, right in the software, gave it a basic project name, daily planner, nothing fancy, picked the standard 6x9-inch paperback size, and importantly, selected the bleed option.
Bleed. What's bleed?
Good question. So bleed basically means if your design elements like background colors or lines go right to the very edge of the page.
Okay.
Selecting bleed tells the printer to extend that design slightly beyond the final trim line.
Yeah.
So when they cut the book to size, there are no accidental white edges. It looks professional, especially for planners where lines often hit the edge.
Got it. So the design prints right to the edge cleanly. Okay. They also mentioned adding personality, but being really careful about copyright.
Oh, absolutely critical. You can't just grab images off Google. That's a fast track to getting your book pulled, or worse.
Yeah, definitely don't want that.
So the software they used, BookBolt, apparently integrates with sites like Pixabay. That gives you access to copyright-free images you can safely use.
Convenient?
Very. Now, for their actual experiment cover, remember the under an hour rule?
Right. Speed was key.
So they kept it super simple. Minimalistic black cover. They did use their existing brand logo and text "Strike It Big" on it.
Incorporating branding. Smart move, even on a quick test. Could help if people like it and look for more later.
Exactly. Build that recognition. So cover done. Then the interior. This is where the no writing rule really came into play.
How'd they manage that? Templates.
Templates are the key. The software has them. You can search for, hashtag planner or whatever type of book you're making.
You just pick one.
Pretty much. Select a pre-designed layout, apply it, and boom, you've got your pages structured. No writing needed. They chose one for hourly scheduling, something they thought looked personally useful.
Makes sense. Practical.
And they just added a few extra blank pages at the end for notes. Nice little touch.
Yeah. So cover, interior, all using templates and free images. Done fast, no real design skill needed. Though they did say you could make something more unique if you spent more time.
Oh, for sure. This is about speed and proving the basic concept. But yeah, more time equals more customization.
Okay. Design done. What's the next big hurdle? Getting it on Amazon.
Exactly. Taking those files and getting them onto Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, or KDP.
KDP. What did the source say were the key things about using KDP for this?
Well, a couple of really important points. First, it's free to sign up and list your book. No upfront costs there.
Free is good.
And maybe the biggest thing for this whole passive income angle, it's print on demand.
Print on demand, meaning Amazon only prints a copy when someone actually buys it.
You got it. So you don't have to buy boxes of books hoping they'll sell. No inventory risk. Amazon handles the printing, the shipping, everything after the sale happens.
It dramatically lowers the barrier to entry, doesn't it?
Hugely. The source also clarified the payment setup. You get paid monthly, about 60 days after the end of the month where the sale happened. So like sell a book in May, you get paid end of July.
Okay, clear enough. Low risk, straightforward payments. So they exported their files. The source mentioned the software splits it into a cover file and an interior file.
Yep, separate files.
And then uploaded those to KDP, created a new paperback listing, filled out the details, and apparently got to list themselves as the author.
Yeah. The slightly funny part of authoring a book with no words you wrote.
A perk of the job.
Yeah.
Well, okay, uploading is one thing. Getting people to actually find the book is the real challenge, isn't it? Amidst millions of others.
Absolutely crucial. And the source really dug into this, the discoverability strategies, because this is apparently where a lot of people trying this fall down. They make a book, but nobody ever sees it.
So back to that research tool again for figuring out titles and descriptions.
Exactly. They use that research feature in BookBolt. The source mentioned a little cloud icon that helps you find popular keywords and see what the current top 100 bestsellers in that category are doing. So they looked at those successful planners, saw what kind of language and keywords they were using.
Learning from the winners.
Yeah, and use that to craft their own title. Something like Strike It Big Daily Productivity Planner and write the book's description, trying to match what buyers are actually searching for.
Makes perfect sense. Speak the customer's language.
Totally. And then keywords or tags.
Yeah.
Amazon lets you add up to 7. The source really hammered this point. Get your tags wrong or don't use them effectively, and you're basically invisible.
So finding those high search volume terms is key.
Yes. Again, using the software to find relevant terms people are actually typing into Amazon. Another interesting tip they mentioned was about categories. Yeah, when you list your book, you pick categories for it to appear in. Their strategy tip was to maybe choose some less popular, more niche categories initially.
Why less popular? Seems counterintuitive.
The idea is it's easier to rank higher, maybe even hit a bestseller list in a smaller pond. Getting that initial visibility and maybe a bestseller tag in a small category can help build momentum.
Clever. A way to stand out early on. Okay, so title, description, tags, categories, all optimized for search. Any final steps before hitting that publish button?
2 main things. They chose the option to publish without an ISBN.
ISBN, the book number thing.
Yeah. For low content stuff like planners and journals on KDP, you often don't need to buy your own ISBN. Amazon can assign one or you can publish without it, which simplifies things.
Okay.
And the absolute critical last step, use the previewer tool. KDP shows you exactly how your cover and interior will look when printed. You have to check this to catch any formatting errors before it goes live.
Definitely don't want wonky lines or a messed up cover. Essential check. You mentioned their planner was 365 pages, right? Did they comment on page count generally?
They did. They said, yeah, 365 makes sense for a daily planner, 1 page per day. But for other low-content books, like maybe a simple line notebook or a basic journal, a shorter book, maybe around 100 pages, might actually be better.
Better how?
Lower printing costs. Fewer pages means it costs Amazon less to print each copy. That lower cost means a higher profit margin for you on each sale.
Good point. Maximize the profit per book. Okay, so the book's designed, optimized, uploaded, previewed. Everything's set. Time for the big reveal. What happened when it actually went live on Amazon?
Well, first it had to go through Amazon's review process. That took about 72 hours, according to the
2
source.
days late? Okay.
And then, for the first 3 days, it was actually live and available for sale. Crickets. 0 sales.
Oof. That must have felt like a letdown after getting it all done. Were they thinking, uh-oh, maybe this doesn't work?
They pretty much said exactly that. They were starting to think maybe the whole idea was a bust.
But
then day 4, a sale popped up on their dashboard. First one.
yes. Okay, proof it can happen. Actual money changing hands. So that was the first sale. What happened after that? Did they track it for a bit longer?
They did. The source says that after a couple of weeks of the book being live,
Oh, okay.
they had sold a total of 10 books.
10 books. Okay, not bad for a quick experiment with 0 promotion, I'm assuming.
Right, purely organic discovery through their setup.
All right, let's break down the money then based on the source's numbers for this little test. What did the finances look like?
Okay, so those 10 books sold generated gross sales of $149.90.
Almost $150 revenue,
Nice.
but then costs.
Right. Amazon's cut for printing, handling, listing, etc. came to $113.
Okay, significant chunk.
It is. And they also factored in the cost of that BookBolt software trial they used. They were on the basic newbie plan, which was $9.99 for the period they tested.
$9.99 for the tool.
Yeah, and they threw in a mention of a discount code, Mark Tilbury, if anyone listening wants to check that software out.
Good tip. So $149.90 revenue minus $113 for Amazon minus $9.99 for the software. Carry the one. What's the net profit?
It comes out to $26.94.
$26.94 net profit over, what, a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
From something they literally threw together in under an hour. Okay. Now, obviously, $27 isn't, quit your job money.
Not even close.
But it's real profit. It shows the mechanism works, right? You can put something minimal out there and potentially make actual money back.
That's exactly the point the source made. The experiment wasn't about getting rich quick. It was about validating the core concept. Does this process actually result in sales and profit, even on a tiny scale, with minimal effort? And the answer was yes.
And I guess this is where it gets really interesting, because that small validated result kind of cracks open the door to the idea of scaling, doesn't it?
Exactly. That's the potential the source then explores. Think about it. What if you didn't just make one book in under an hour?
Right.
What you had that same quick process, maybe got a bit faster, and created a whole portfolio. Maybe 20 different simple planners, journals, logbooks, whatever the research suggests.
Okay, yeah. Multiple products out there.
And then imagine, as some of those start to sell, they get a few reviews. Those reviews build trust, maybe boost the books and search results.
Social proof.
Suddenly, you might not be making just 10 sales over 2 weeks. Maybe you're making 10 sales a day spread across your whole catalog.
10 sales a day. Suddenly, that $2.70 average profit per book starts adding up very differently.
Precisely. That's how you get from a $27 experiment to potentially thousands per month. It's framed as a genuinely scalable side hustle idea, built on that initial, simple, validated process.
So wrapping this up then, what's the big takeaway? It seems like, based on the source and their test, the whole idea of making passive income with these low-content books on KDP, it's not just a fantasy, it's actually something they managed to do relatively quickly and easily, resulting in real sales and profit.
Yeah, it demonstrates that the fundamental process is sound. And it really highlights the importance of those key steps they followed. Doing the research up front.
Right.
Using templates to make creation fast and easy. Really focusing on those keywords and categories so people can find the book.
Discoverability is huge.
And leveraging KDP's print on demand so your financial risk is almost zero.
Which really leaves you, the listener, with a kind of provocative thought, doesn't it? If they could make something, a basic planner in under an hour that actually sold, what kind of simple, low-content book could you maybe create?
Yeah, what niche interests you? What simple tool could you design?
And how much time or effort might you be willing to put in, knowing that even a minimal test showed some result and that the source suggests real scaling potential?
It puts the ball in your court, really.
Yeah.
Is that small validation enough to maybe explore it further? And it's worth remembering, the source mentioned this KDP thing was just one of 7 passive income ideas they were looking at.
Ah, right. So there are other avenues out there, too.
Definitely suggests there are multiple ways people are trying to build these kinds of income streams. This is just one specific example that seems, well, surprisingly accessible.